Hello, my name is Ashley Pilcher. Today I'm going to be talking to you about GroupMe and the role language plays in this messaging application. So here's just a brief intro on what GroupMe is. It's a group messaging application where you can have multiple messaging groups open to be able to communicate with different groups. So it's free. You can get notifications just like a text message. You can also choose not to get notifications, so you can mute it, which is a perk of having this app. So it can be downloaded on any phone, any mobile device, any computer, and it also doesn't take up data, so it doesn't store pictures on your phone. So today, before we continue, I'm going to be talking about 3 really important concepts in GroupMe. I decided to focus on the hierarchy of a sports team, namely the GW softball team, in interviewing 3 different classes of people. So I interviewed a senior, I interviewed a sophomore, and I interviewed a junior to be able to look closer into what authority looks like in GroupMe and also what Heim's speaking model really looks like in GroupMe with the use of frames. And lastly, I wanted to look at performatives and how speech acts really depend on the team's reception of various messages. So to begin discussing frames, here are 2 examples of messages where frames were completely different frames were taken into account. So if you look here, we have a teammate of mine that messaged about an injury she had just had. This was a somber message, a really serious message. So the participant was a teammate. The setting was obviously, it happened at a game, but the setting now is GroupMe. So it's just the reaction we would give is a lot of likes because we're able to respond by empathizing with her or sympathizing for her if you've never been really injured. And over here you have an example of another frame, which is a silly frame, where we are jesting and talking about honestly a specific symbol that GW softball has that's not relevant to any other culture. So an example within this frame is this localized joke that in society I would say the symbol of a wheel or a bicycle would typically resemble something you ride. In this case, our bike or wheel represents our pride as a GW softball team. So the joke is that if our bike is stolen, that means that we've lost our bike and we've lost our possession, which means we've probably lost a game. So you'd have to really be embedded in the GW softball culture to really understand this frame. And it really is localized to the genre, which is a funny way of communicating, and the act of sending this message. So here further are just some interviewees' thoughts about the purpose of GroupMe after looking at frames. I would say people use GroupMe to type and have their ideas read and received, which is really important and basic, but also they said the GroupMe is a very fast way to get out information, does not always blow up your phone, and the messages are saved separately and all in one place. GroupMe gives an open forum for all messages to be seen in the same place. And going back to frames, that's really important because while all the messages are being seen in the same place, they're also conveying tons of different messages with tons of different tones, and honestly can be directed at many different people and subgroups within the team. So looking at speech acts, the one thing I noticed after interviewing many of the 3 people I interviewed on my team, I realized that without something we've been talking about in class is that without reception from the audience, there really is no performance. And it's really evident that in this GroupMe message that one of my teammates is reminding our team about a video that she needs us all to attend, to film, and she also uses this emotional appeal to be able to get people to come. So I'd say people's reception is to support this teammate because of the way she's typed her message. So the usage of language in this case is really, really dependent, and the effectiveness of people actually show up is really, really dependent on the way people receive this message. And as you can see, it got some likes, which means on GroupMe that they really, really absorbed the message. It landed well, and they are responding to it, and they're most likely going to come, or they would like to come. Authority is a huge, it's very evident in GroupMe because within a softball team or any group, there's you can categorize people as leaders, which can also lead to different frames based on how you've placed yourself on the team with regards to stature in how long you've been there. So as you can see here, we have two different GroupMes actually, which can completely have different purposes. Within this GroupMe, we have a GroupMe just dedicated to Senior Day. So it includes everyone but the seniors, which means that there's a new hierarchy with the junior class that they have leadership in. So you can see here that within this GroupMe that she's addressing the rest of the team. This message was actually in response to this because other people did not receive this well. So this person, the senior leader, actually responded in the greater GroupMe, directing it at one person. So there's a complexity here about GroupMe and the way messages are received, because this was not received well, therefore a senior addressed it at this person in the broad GroupMe, in a public forum. So with that, authority and performance, I have a quote from that junior that actually the message was directed at, and she said, "Much of the time messages are directed to the whole team, but some may actually apply to only a few people or should just be sent directly to someone. Because of this, people are capable of publicly addressing someone in the group message, and people do not respond well when they feel called out or attacked in the GroupMe personally. This can drastically affect team culture." So we're looking at performance. It is evident that everything that is sent in the GroupMe is intentional and always yielding a result, whether it is misunderstanding or understanding, an expression of authority, the absorbance of instructions or information, encouragement, or simply being informed of someone's situation, whether funny or serious. So the locutionary act, going back to this, was typing these messages, but the force of this was to inform, and then the force of this one was anger, induced by anger, and the intention was to correct an underclassman. So the prolocutionary outcome of this one, honestly, it hurt someone's feelings, therefore it was not received as well. We just talked about prolocutionary outcomes and performance, but some further quotes from my interviewees are, people that are leaders in the GroupMe take on an authority role and are not always listened to because of perception of tone or punctuation. So you'd have to know this person to know that the tone is really distinct with punctuation, but the periods always indicate, the short, choppy sentences always can indicate, depending on the person, that what the illocutionary force is and then what the perlocutionary outcome will be. So there's always an audience that must evaluate, and they are using frames to do so. So there's this meshing of frames and speech acts, and in what I'm talking about, performatives. So to go along with reception a little bit more, some quotes I got from interviewing some of my teammates for that, I do feel validated when I get likes a lot. I then know that people have received the message or that people enjoyed the message, which conveys an emotional reception of something. So further, if people don't understand or respect what is being sent, it can change the way your teammates see you, which can ultimately change the way you mesh. So there's this broader implication of reception and its importance in a team culture. So I think the reception aspect of performance can further have implications on future performative acts if one was not successful. So to continue, this quote reminded me of an illocutionary force because of the motivation behind this. So the quote is, you can send a group meet and then they will text you directly about it. So messages can be directed at a subgroup of people, but it can't be narrowed down until you address the whole group meet. So the illocutionary force in this case is to actually narrow down a subgroup of people for a specific reason. So an example on GroupMe would be, like this message if you can go to this event tonight. So they would never have been able to narrow down the subgroup of people if they weren't able to send down that message. Therefore, the force behind the message was to understand who is able to go to an event, who is able to show up. Therefore, you get likes and reception based on that. So to talk a little bit more about authority to close, these quotes strike me as really important when thinking about authority in the context of GroupMe. When we think about hierarchy and we think about the types of authority that are present. I notice a lot of traditional authority just based on a natural hierarchy, and I would say the hierarchy would be grade level. And also a charismatic authority because of some teammates maybe not being as old, but they may be more encouraging because of exemplary character. They tend to also take a really big leadership role in being able to get greater reception out of the team. But generally, the things I got were that hierarchy starts with coaches and then it goes to the upperclassmen. So to close, I think that frames are also just to reinforce are really extremely important in GroupMe because the motivations behind contributing in GroupMe are various and a wide spectrum of things. So some really important quotes are, the expectations revolve around the sensitivity of the situation. You have to respect responses towards teammates. It is definitely okay to joke around, but entirely depends on the situation. The reasons why people speak in the GroupMe are to inform, to hype up, especially for sports and before games and for team bonding. This is also what language in the GroupMe achieves. The expectations are different depending on if it's a GroupMe with coaches or with just a team. The coaches definitely set the precedent, which shows that the coaches have a different frame in their own GroupMe with the team than the GroupMe with just the team, and also continues to display more and more authority. Thank you for watching. To really just provide a closing statement, I would argue that authority, speech acts, specifically performatives, in the context of the locutionary act, the illocutionary force, and the perlocutionary outcome are very, very important in interpreting the effectiveness of language in GroupMe. And I also think frames in the context of GroupMe is very important to interpret the language and to understand the dynamic set of expectations that are particular to different situations. Thanks again.